Hi, this is Inside the Creative Process. I'm Steve Gordon. I'm here today with my friend who's the Vice President of Talent and Development at Comedy Central, Kellen Parker. Thanks for joining us, Kellen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So tell us, can you describe a little bit about your job?
Yeah, for sure. So I work in the Talent and Development department here at Comedy Central. What we're really tasked with doing is scouting and finding talent, and then like really sourcing ideas and figuring out how to, bring those ideas to TV and digital and for the Comedy Central audience.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So I'd like you to tell me a little bit about how you got here. Before you were at a major website, Funny or Die, and now you're in a major cable television network. So tell us a little bit about the experience that got you here and how they're different.
Yeah, for sure. So like many people, I moved out here. I went to film school at the University of Michigan, moved out here to work in the industry. A first step that a lot of people take in this career is to work in a mailroom agency mailroom.
Uh-huh.
So I started in the mailroom at UTA, United Talent Agency, a big agency out here. Spent about 3 years as an agent trainee, slash, that's a lot of assistant work, but you're also learning the industry, learning the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for 3 years, got a really good handle on just the culture of Hollywood, how it works out here.
Mm-hmm.
Met a lot of great people, did really cool work. My last year at UTA, I worked in the digital media department, and then transitioned that to a role at Funny or Die. And then just grew with the company. I was at Funny or Die for about 6 years, and had various roles from account management on the ad sales side to producing, to executive producing, to eventually vice president and running entire department there. And then, I was fortunate enough to then make the leap from Funny or Die over here to Comedy Central and work in cable. I'd say comedy in general, and comedy especially out here in Hollywood, the world's pretty insular and pretty small, so like a lot of the same people, a lot of the same agents and managers and talent that I was working with as an executive producer at Funny or Die are the same people I'm working with today. And then I think in terms of like how they're different, I'd say just scale and scope and speed. Funny or Die is a really nimble, really scrappy company.
Lean,
yeah. Very lean, all hands on deck. You kind of, it was a blessing and a curse. You got to learn so much, you got to do so much. But there wasn't a big team with a ton of support. And going to a company like that at such a young age, you get a lot thrown at you and you just learn on your feet, and it's so invaluable kind of moving forward. And here at Viacom, it's very, Comedy Central Viacom, it's very similar. The mechanics are very similar. Giving notes is giving notes. Identifying talent and good ideas and developing a script, it's all the same stuff you kind of started learning in high school and college. Just the scale and scope just grows. And the pace is different. It takes a couple of years to get a show from pitch to air, whereas at a place like Funny or Die, we would hear ideas, and as soon as a week later, you got something live on the website.
Oh, amazing! You can make a lot of writers and producers jealous.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It just depends. But obviously those are web sketches, and these are TV shows seen by millions of people. So I think the mechanics of it all, if you boil it down to like the basics, very similar. I'd never worked in TV, and I was really kind of anxious and excited to make the leap from the web to TV, and then quickly realized, oh, it's very similar. Working on creative is working on creative. And whether that's a TV show or a live event or a article, like it doesn't matter. Like digging down with creatives, hiring and surrounding yourself with people that you believe in, people that inspire you, and then just like as a producer or an executive, giving them the support and the tools they need to kind of do what they got to do is like, pretty universal.
Tell us a little bit about that idea process. How do you come up with ideas, and how do you evaluate whether they have merit or not?
It depends. I think here at Comedy Central, we don't have a rigid mandate. We comedy in particular, or comedy generally, and comedy at Comedy Central in particular, is so point of view and talent driven. Comedy really is important to know who's delivering that comedy, what's their point of view, and how do we identify with them. So I think in terms, like, there's no broad like magic bullet. It's just a
Yes.
lot of like pounding the pavement, getting out there, reading a ton, watching a lot of comedy, meeting a lot of comics, hearing their stories, familiarizing yourself with their material, so that when they are ready to bring in an original idea, you have a pretty clear understanding of who they are as a person, and then you can marry that with their original idea, and then see if it fits for kind of what we're looking to make. So, yeah, it's tough, but I enjoy it. You know, I think as a fan and as a consumer, I would watch comedy all day and night if it wasn't my job, and like to have it be my profession is really cool because you know it's something I can really pour myself into and enjoy. You know, the hours we put in.
Is it somewhat instinctual that you see something, you say that can work? I mean, you know it right away normally, or is it something that takes some time?
Sometimes, and those I would say, if I had to break it down, we hear a lot of pitches and we get a lot of ideas sent to us. I don't know, 5-10% of them, if that, you kind of know right off the bat, like this is gonna work. A lot of them, you know right off the bat, this isn't gonna work. But I'd say the vast majority of what we get, because like there's, you know, certain processes and layers, and like for something to really land on our desk, it has to come kind of vetted from, you know, management and representatives. Like, so we're not getting like everything we get in somebody's brain makes sense. But I would say the majority of what I see is in this huge gray area where it's like, that could probably work, but we gotta start working on it. We gotta start developing it. We gotta start cracking it. We gotta pair this piece of talent with a writer to really bring out that idea. Or we gotta pair this writer and their amazing idea with a piece of talent that can really put a face on that idea. So yeah, a lot of it's just like rolling your sleeves up and doing the work. The easy ones, obviously, you can see them, you know, a million miles away. And those ones are also the competitive ones. Those are ones that every network wants, and we take our swings at those, and we win some and we lose some. But the vast majority of my work is actually spent shaping and building stuff.
In attaching writers, what do you like reading dozens and dozens of scripts? Are they people you've worked with before? How do you match the writer with the project?
It depends. I think what we really strive at here, and Funny or Die is no different, is working with multi-hyphenates. So it's a lot of the people we work with and a lot of the stars of our biggest shows are not only amazing performers, but they're also amazing writers, and they're also amazing producers. So because like I said earlier, comedy is so point of view driven, somebody writing for their own voice, and that's where we really can strike gold. But it's not the rule, you know. There's been plenty of projects where we've had to pair the right, you know, piece of talent with the right idea. And like you alluded to, it's just a lot of writing and understanding writers' voices. And TV writing, more so than feature writing, is a big group project. You know, you're building a room, you're putting together a team of writers to work on a TV show or a pilot. So, you know, it's, you know, reading a lot of scripts and then picking the, you know, 2 to 5 writers that are going to be able to take that world and really build it out in a smart and fun and compelling way.
Speaking of writers, giving notes to writers, how do you approach that? Is there a right and wrong way to do that or not?
Well, in an ideal world, you don't have to give notes. Everything's perfect.
Does that ever happen?
Sometimes. Sometimes people really have a clear vision, and their vision aligns with our vision. And we'll ask a couple clarifying questions, but sometimes it works. Most of the time, though, like, what I never want to do, I have no misgivings. I'm not a writer. I'm not a creative. I am an executive.
Well, you are a creative.
I've been a producer. Yeah, I guess so. But like, I'm not a writer.
Right.
So like, what I don't want to do, and what I think I really, really avoid, is pitching jokes or pitching plot or telling people how they should rewrite something. I'll ask questions. I'll ask for clarifying beats. I will try to be the logic police. You know, I'll say in episode 3, this character ended the episode in this position. Now in episode 7, you're telling me they're in this position, but you're not addressing how they got there. Let's clarify that. Or I'll say, you know, the voice of this dialogue doesn't match how I understand this character would be thinking. What is their point of view? What is their vision? How, you know, and just all stuff that you learn coming up in like a screenwriting program. But, you know, I think people can get a little tunnel vision. And also these writers are going through drafts and drafts and drafts of scripts before they come to me. And so, like, sometimes it's good to have that bird's eye view, to have that perspective, and to ask some of those clarifying questions. So hopefully that's what I'm doing the most of. You know, sometimes things need more heavy lifting than not. I try my hardest to not be a slave to process, to not rush things, to not say, you know, we're supposed to do 4 drafts, we're 4 drafts in, that's it. Like, if it's not ready, it's not ready. And also, if you nail it in 2 drafts, then let's move on. So, you know, I try to be as low touch as possible, but also never betray that everything has to be great, you know.
Tell me about how you censor a script if you think it's maybe over the top in terms of it's going to offend somebody.
You know, it's never funny to be crass for crass's sake, but if it serves a story, and it makes sense, and it's true to the world we're creating, I never want to be the one that censors anything. So, you know, we have obviously standards and practices, and a sales team, and this big machine that runs everything we do, and they're part of the vetting process. But, you know, I don't want to make decisions for them. I want the creative to really shine. And if it's something I truly believe in, and it's something that I believe gets us the best version of the story we're trying to tell, then I'll go to the mat for it. And we have a great team here. In terms of that vetting process, people aren't, you know, dogmatic about it. Like, you can have conversations, and you can explain your point of view, and you can give them context, and they'll work with you to find a happy medium. And in my days at Funny or Die, I did a lot of work with brands, so I had to do a lot of. I had to be the translator. I had to translate brand notes back to creatives, and creative, you know, vision back to the brands, and find a happy medium. And it was a lot of battles that I had to fight, but like that really helped a ton. And I think perspective and knowing who has skin in the game and knowing what their priorities are and reconciling all of that is super important, because everything we do is extremely collaborative. Like, there's so many people involved in making anything out here that you really got to get buy-in from everybody and make sure everybody's rowing in the same direction, or stuff can easily just go off the rails.
You find it a difficult or a challenge to when you're competing with networks that don't have advertisers that are, you know, pay cable?
It depends. I mean, we have such a crazy legacy of having these amazing shows and really being a launching pad for talent. So, you know, everybody comes into, not only are they trying to sell us something, but we're trying to sell ourselves to them, especially if it's a competitive situation. So yeah, we hopefully our legacy, our process, our relationships, our creative, you know, speaks for itself, and people enjoy working with us and want to work with us. But yeah, it's super competitive right now. Like, there are a lot of different, not only like linear competitors, OTT competitors, and but, you know, we'll always stand by the fact that we roll up our sleeves, do the work, and actually develop and package and have a strong collaborative, creative relationship with our, you know, people we buy shows from. So hopefully that works, and, you know, and hopefully we just continue to do good stuff that, you know, attracts not only audience but also attracts great creatives.
You were a film and television major in school, so you took lots of production courses and probably some, you know, script courses, etc. What are courses you took outside your major that you thought have been helpful to you in your career?
So I went to Michigan. I went to this big, massive school, but I went to the liberal arts college inside of Michigan. And just that, it was called LSNA, Letters, Sciences, Arts, I believe. Just the, you know, the prereqs to graduate from that, I think gave us a really well-rounded, like, view on, like, that liberal arts education. So I think, I don't know, psych classes I loved, anthro classes I loved. You know, I did a lot of, both within my major and outside my major, I did a lot of, like, digital media theory, just as an interest of mine. I love tech. But I don't know, I just one thing that I always try to do, both in school and in my life, is just be around stuff that interests me, that I can pour myself into. So I think that's what really helped. And Michigan was a big enough school. There were so many classes. I took a class on jazz music. I took a class on Malcolm X. I took a class, on global warming and how it impacts, populations around the world. Like, so like I think that like just gravitating towards stuff that you're naturally curious about really helped me just like get through school. And then, obviously being in love with pop culture, in love with TV and film, like I really dug into that as much as I possibly could.
Good. Was there anything that you wished you'd taken? Did you have enough business courses and literature and all that I guess you did because you were an agent.
Yeah, I mean, that didn't, to me, I took some marketing class that I found interesting, very interesting. But it didn't matter. Nothing matters. Stay in school. But entertainment is this really interesting, cool world where it's one of the last great apprenticeship-based industries out there. You don't have to go to college. I loved it, and I had such a great experience, and I learned so much, and it helped me immensely in my career. But with that being said, there are plenty of people that just start working and do very well out here. So like, it's all on the job training. Everything's on the job training. I know some people graduate from college kind of like can't wrap their head around the idea that, why would I go to a mailroom, make minimum wage, and deliver mail for a living for years? And that's kind of not seeing the forest through the trees. Like, you're not just delivering mail. You're listening to every single conversation. You're watching the industry work. And you're learning the culture.
Kellen, tell me the biggest challenge in your job.
There's two things. And maybe this is me personally. I think time. Like I always run out of time, and I'm the type of person I really like to do it all. And I think managing time and being targeted and being very judicious about what you're spending your time on is something I kind of still struggle with. Because I want to read every script, and I want to go to every show, and I want to work on every project. And you really, really, it's not possible. And I think outside of that, really developing like your taste and being confident about that, because we're in a business of opinions. Everything's an opinion. Nobody knows anything. And even when you think you know something, you don't know what your audience is going to respond to and what your audience thinks about your projects. So just really like sticking to your guns, and being able to have an opinion and fight for that opinion, and not to be bullheaded about it, but to, and not to, but like you can't fall into groupthink. You can't be reactionary. Nobody knows what they want until you give it to them.
Tell me your favorite project that you've worked on.
I've worked on, I'm so excited. So I'm in the middle of the show Southside. And we're currently scripting. We'll shoot it in June, and hopefully it's, on the air, end of this year, early next year. And it's just the perfect show for my taste.
Tell us what it's about.
Yeah, it's a workplace comedy, in a very traditional workplace comedy. But the big twist on it is it takes place in the South Side of Chicago in a rent-to-own. So it's a primarily black cast in a working class neighborhood, dealing with kind of the trials and tribulations of trying to get ahead. Everybody's trying to get ahead in life, and that's very universal. But the specificity of it being in Chicago, and it being in this very specific part of Chicago, that's, has such a bad rep in kind of the national consciousness and in media, but they're showing the humanity there, showing that these are just people, trying to get by, and they have trials and tribulations, and also like on top of it, there's so much humor and goofiness, and so much like flavor in that world. I'm really enjoying just like digging into that. We're scripting it right now, and they're doing a killer job, and even like building that writer's room was a lot of fun. Reading a lot of samples, and we're fortunate enough that everybody in the room is from Chicago.
Yeah, that's great.
And we met with so many people and read so much, and we got a bunch of killers in the room, and they're doing great work, and I'm really excited about it.
That's awesome. Have you done any casting yet?
We shot a pilot, and some of the actors. That's the other really cool thing about the project is some of the people in the project are from our writers, just hometown.
Just knowing,
they're,
that's
they're
cool. Yeah.
they're up and coming actors. Some of them aren't. This is like kind of their first gig, and they're so authentic. And but no, we have like Lil Rel Howery in the pilot, and it's from these two writers, Diallo and Bashir. They both act in the pilot, and we haven't cast a series yet, but a lot of familiar faces from the pilot will be back.
Very good. Good luck with that.
Yeah, we're excited.
Kellyn, tell us what you think a media student today needs to do to break into the business.
I would say that when you're in school, try to make as much stuff as you can. Like, relatively low stakes. You're paying a lot of money for it. You have access to really good equipment, and you're around a lot of like-minded, hungry, smart people. So just make as much as you possibly can, and really, make mistakes when the stakes aren't as high as they can be when you're outside of school and financing stuff on your own and borrowing time and spending all your weekends making stuff. And then outside of that, I think once you've graduated, or even like while you're looking for internships or trying to kind of wrap your head around like, what would my life look like in the industry, I think it's really, really important to go in eyes open and realize there are hundreds of jobs and they're all so vastly different, and they all kind of feed the same machine. So like a world in development is wildly different than a world in production. And figuring out what kind of fits your skill set and your interest. Example I give students all the time when I talk to them is I went to film school. I love production. I love making things. And came out here to intern and worked as a PA on a set, and it just wasn't for me. And I like production. I love being an executive. I love being an executive producer. I like popping in and out of set. But like a life working on set 12 hours a day, every day, bouncing from job to job, working freelance, just wasn't going to work for me. So I found something that made more sense for me. I think that's what I would tell students is like, there's so many different jobs. Like, even like working in HR at a studio, or like there's just so much that you can do that feeds this machine that's so compelling and so interesting. So I think like just keeping your eyes open. Everybody wants to be a writer, everybody wants to be a director, and that's great. And I think if you do want to be a writer director, I think you never stop doing that. Even if you do have to make money and get a job, like, keep writing, keep plugging away, get involved. If comedy's your gig, like get involved with the UCB or Groundlings and never stop writing, never stop performing. But also like that's not the end all be all to a career out here. Like I've never done UCB or Groundlings. I've gone to those theaters for 10 years, but I've never been a part of it. And I think that like my niche and what I'm interested in, my skill set, are so complementary to the people that pour themselves into that.
Thank you very much for joining us,
Cool.
Kellyn. You've
Yeah,
been
thanks for having me.
awesome today.
Really appreciate it.
It's Inside the Creative Process. Kellyn Parker with us today. Thanks for joining us.